Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast with Scott Valins from Go Rascal. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here.
It is fantastic to have you. So, to get all of our listeners up to speed, you've had a phenomenal career in the mortgage industry. In the cold notes, how did you get started? How did you get to where you are today?
Started a couple years out of college living in LA, California. I'm a East Coaster, currently in New York, but had a chapter on the West Coast, needed to escape the cold. That was really
Wise.
yeah, right. That was the initial purpose of going west. I grew up in Florida, so after spending college and a few years in the Northeast, I was like, I need to mix it up. I think my blood was a little too cold. Um, So yeah, I met some people working in the mortgage business basically in 2004, got introduced, sounded like a pretty cool thing to try out, and really the rest is history.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, your current brokerage, Go Rascal,
hmm
is growing rapidly. So
hmm
I would like to take today's discussion to talk about recruiting
hmm
and looking, because normally we talk about marketing and advertising and how to derive consumer direct business, database marketing, how to get realtors, how to go consumer direct. But I think a conversation of there's so many people in the industry that are looking at this downturn as an opportunity to increase bench strength, grow the team, and really put the systems and processes in place in order to build that team so that as this market turns around, and I've been hearing over and over, it's called the year of the fives this year. This market opportunity is going to come back, and the people that are best prepared now are the ones that are really going to take that market in the future. So, can you walk me through your recruiting process and how you've built that in your brand?
Yeah, sure. Um, well, we've got some pillars in the business, especially in the broker channel that we've learned from. I think we'll be a pillar here soon, but we're growing. We have about 140 LOs now.
Wow.
Uh, Added, I think, 105 last year. Should be able to add 200 to 250 this year, maybe more. And so for us, I mean, if you asked me 18 months ago, it was me and my COO just hitting the phones hard by ourselves, just dialing off a list. It actually reminds me of when I first got into the mortgage business back in '04 when it was kind of a refi boom. I was dialing off of title leads, just name and address and phone number,
Wow.
and converting, right? So
Yeah.
it was like, all right, this is kind of we're bootstrapping. Let's add LOs. How do we do it? So we're in New York. Um, it's nice to be in New York because New York has doesn't have quite as many other just more the mortgage industry is heavily regulated. New York happens to be a very difficult state to operate in.
Yep.
We live here; it's our backyard, so of course we're gonna operate here. So we said let's start by recruiting people nearby, local that maybe have heard of us, probably wouldn't because we only started Go Rascal in 2020. Um, Started there, kind of built a base with local LOs. We could meet in person, shake their hand. That always helps. And then we grew from there. Now I have two kind of full-time recruiters. I have a VP of growth, and then I have a general kind of recruiter who sits under him, and they have call blocks, they have dial figures and goals to hit. We do an outbound campaign. We do some cold email, funnels, all the things kind of that I think maybe you've talked about. In fact, you're kind of a pro at from the past, with the end user, the customer being the loan officer. Then we try to kind of funnel everyone into a weekly webinar. Again, following the leaders, people have done this. It's a great way to be efficient about sharing like the technicals versus doing 30 one-on-one calls for 30 minutes a week, sharing the exact same stuff. And
Yep.
then post webinar, we'll either jump on like a pricing call with them. So our goal mainly is to recruit people from the retail channel. We think the real value prop is the move from retail to broker and everything that comes with it. And so, we'll go right into pricing.
Mm.
We'll push that as soon as they're ready to have that conversation, jump on Zoom, pull up some pricing engines and identify the disparity Then one of the things we love to do is we have a plug and play P&L. So we'll take their data, how many loans are you closing honestly in this market? If you tell me
Okay.
7 to 8, I'm probably not going to believe you. What's your comp plan? What's your average loan amount? What are your overhead costs that you're responsible for? We'll take that, we'll plug it into a P&L, Excel doc
Yep.
that we built out, and then we'll do a pricing exercise, show them what they could sell and what kind of revenue would be earned, and we're a flat fee model, very similar to other big broker shops, and so we take our fees off the top and show them the spread. And so, okay, if you're doing 4 loans a month and you're used to getting 110, 120 bips, and our math we put right in front of you shows you could bring in 230 on average on your loans based on the loan amount. Here's the cost you would have to incur on our side compared to what you're paying there. And then boom, they have like real tangible numbers. Our sell is really, we go tangible out of the gate because we have that luxury, and then we'll follow up with all the soft stuff.
Yeah.
It's critical that we share all the other things. I think just going hard on how to make more per loan and that's it, we've had to overcome or build around the myth that moving from retail to wholesale is you lose the support and the control. So over time we've heard the rebuttals, we've learned why people didn't come over when like the math was overwhelmingly clear and in their favor to make the move. So we built all that, right? So we've nailed support, especially the first 60 days for a loan officer. We make sure that the transition is seamless. And so I consider recruiting from call one or marketing piece one, whatever we get in front of the recruit, all the way through at least their first 60, 90 days. We're still recruiting them once they're here.
Yeah.
Because we want them to be happy. Our motto is the happiest home for loan officers. That's our mission statement, I should say, is the happiest home for loan officers. So that's our company's built on loan officers. They're our customer, and we're building the happiest home for loan officers. And so they might be happy with all the calls, the lead up, the onboarding, and then boom, their first loan hits, and it's like, oh my God, I screwed up and I lost a borrower, lost a referral partner. So we make sure that just cannot happen. So we want on day 60 or 90, we're doing like a questionnaire and a phone call. How was your onboarding experience? Tell us everything, the good and the bad. And we take feedback from that, and then we improve it to make it better for the next LO that's coming on board.
That is,
and we want them to tell their friends and recruit their friends over. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Once you get to critical mass, that's a core driver of the business. So there's so much to unpack there. I'll go in baby steps. I would like to highlight for all of our listeners that the first thing that you said was when you got started on this new project, you hit the phones, smiling, dialing for dollars. I think, and I'm known as, especially now, a lot of what we're doing is artificial intelligence based. So sales automations, having AI have those conversations, but you still have to make the first phone call to put the person into the top of the funnel. Funnels don't work unless you're putting enough contacts into the top of them. And funnels, I have learned, perform exponentially better when they're triggered from a phone call using a power dialer. And so, Scott, I'm hoping that this is valuable for you and for our listeners, because I want to share our numbers. So our concierge team booked, I believe, and this is just off the top of my head, but this is like well over 1,000 appointments last month. And we talk to, on average, 16% of the people that we call and put into a funnel is an actual tangible conversation, either text messaging or a phone call. We don't count emails back and forth, but a tangible conversation via text or the actual conversation. And then our average is 52% of the people that we have a conversation with, we will book into an appointment. And then 73% of the appointments that we book actually show up. So that is a loan officer either calling their past customer database or a qualified list of realtors or referral partners that they've done business previously, but they've fallen out of touch with them. So your model is taking almost that identical thing and applying it to calling loan officers and recruiting for Go Rascal. So I'm interested in how you went from your role making those calls to then getting your business development representative, and how do you look at the metrics of that business development rep? Or do they have a certain amount of phone calls that they have to hit every day, a certain number of conversations? How did you build that, and how do you monitor it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's actually something that is a bit of a work in progress. So we hired our recruiter before we hired our kind of sales manager, lead recruiter. We call him our VP of growth, just more by happenstance. So I think one of the bottlenecks in general for me in this operation is that I'm an originator at heart, and until late 2021, while this company was up and running, we didn't have this model. We weren't recruiting LOs like this, like we are now with our splits and everything. I was still, 80% originating while wearing a CEO hat and with big growth goals that were outside of my sole production. Then we turned this thing on in early 2022. I'm very proud of my partner and I for kind of seeing this opportunity and pivoting and jumping on it quickly. I think we could have deliberated for months and not made the operational cuts we needed to survive in like early 2022. But as we were turning this on, there was still the impetus for me to originate. We had loan officers in different kind of roles as far as just their structure at the company that we were still managing. So all these things were happening at once. We wanted to get this off the ground. I needed it to still originate a lot. We had other LOs and other capacities. We were offboarding operational staff, and that doesn't happen overnight. So eventually, that's why my partner and I, the best thing we could do was like 4 to 6 every day, clear our schedules and dial and get LOs. And we didn't even have a great funnel. We had no funnel then. We got someone interested. I'm trying to think where we would even put it. Yeah, I don't know.
A whiteboard.
A whiteboard, maybe. We use Bonzo now. Maybe we're using HubSpot then, but I think it was HubSpot. It wasn't a well-built system. Then we woke up as this started to grow and take off. And I think there was a moment where we said this, a lot of people say this LO recruiting thing has an expiration, that once rates pull back into the fives, like musical chairs a bit. Right now, everyone's playing musical chairs and music stops, rates are lower, everyone gets busy. It's gonna be hard to get them to move, especially retail to wholesale. It's, scary if you're busy. I still believe that. However, we haven't, rates have pulled back, into the sixes now, and we're only growing into that. I think our value prop and our model will allow us to keep adding LOs in any rate environment, but I get it. I think it's harder. I think there's a sticky nature to it. So we said, okay, we got to hit this fast. We maybe have 18 months, kind of hopefully we only have 18 months because rates coming down will help everyone. So we didn't think, and again, remember, we're coming from, or you probably don't know, we were coming from a place where we had big overhead, we had a big budget, we're doing well, then we had to scale back. So we weren't in a position to go get like a VP level person. Bootstrapping, David and I, okay, now we need another recruiter. We need someone to warm up these people and see if, we built out a list of questions that had to be answered for them to be advanced to mine or David's calendar, right? And based on the results, production, or just other things, if they were willing to answer those questions, we could identify their bottlenecks and their pain points, we'd be better equipped to dive right in. And the recruiter could also answer technical questions. We didn't have the webinar yet. So we started with a recruiter, kind of lower level, lower cost. And then as it scaled, we're like, okay, I need to be able to step out of 14, 15 calls a week. The recruiter's doing more junior people, I'm doing more VIP. I've got to now be able to step out. That doesn't work. My job now is more nurturing the LOs that come on board,
right,
and doing sales coaching and all the things that, I think an LO wants from a leader. I don't think our LOs would be thrilled if they knew I was spending 80% of my time either originating or recruiting. It's like, what about us? We're here, we're happy, but we want more, right? And I think that's the message is, loan officer kind of always going to want more. And I know that I'm a salesperson, right? So we started with a junior person. Then as I've realized I can't do all these things and spend 80% of my time on the phone, let's get someone who is, my caliber and will be just as impressive to a loan officer to help kind of close them.
Yep.
And so that's where we are today. Again, so what do we measure? So our perfect work week right now for both the LO, the recruiter and the VP, I think it's 250 outbound calls for the recruiter, 50 a day. We're going to bump that soon. We've realized
Yep.
just based on our conversion, our goals, it's just not enough.
Yep.
15 a day, and these are VIP, 15 a day for the VP. And then there's a meaningful calls metric. I don't know exactly what it is. And then there is, once these people graduate or they come over, there is a bit of an assignment. We also have these people wearing like a concierge style hat
Yep.
where they need to be available to help these people post transition as well. So they need to be calling. I think we do Mondays and Thursdays for the first 60 days, checking in with the LOs, seeing if they need anything, making sure they're using the right tools and resources. And so those are kind of our main metrics. Where we're moving now, because I had this call with my VP yesterday, is a bit more of hitting conversion metrics.
Right.
Because you can make the calls all day long. It's got to result in advancing people to the next stage.
Yep.
We have
Yep.
a
No,
really good
funnel.
turnout to our webinar. I think
Mhm.
I lead it every week. We got an awesome deck. We get great feedback. I think we need to be converting more people who came to the webinar to an MLS transition.
Yep.
And so those are the things we're diving deeper into now to improve that.
And the thing that I love most about your breakdown on that is each of the conversion points in your funnel. And this is where database marketing and recruiting realtors and even recruiting for the mortgage business, any marketing system in any business boils down to basic metrics. It's basic math. How many people do you reach out to? How many of them do you connect with? How many meaningful conversations? How many appointments? How many sales? And each of those transition points has a conversion percentage. We track the exact same thing in our organization. But once you get a baseline of those, then it gives you as a manager and a business owner the ability to take a look at dials. Like, where do I need to go make the adjustments and put the systems and processes and focus and effort on really moving the dial? And if you can make a big shift at the bottom of the funnel, if you double your conversion, well, that makes a huge impact on the bottom line. But if you're closing as many sales as you possibly can, well, then you've got to go up the funnel. If you can put double the amount of people on the top of the funnel and keep your conversion rate the same, well, you're still going to double your sales, right? It's being able to see those conversion points. I think so many people are flying blind in their mortgage businesses because they haven't taken the time to put the tracking and the systems in place to know what's actually happening with the leads. So that's incredibly valuable, Scott.
Yeah, I will just say, recruiting is a full-time initiative, and it even took us a year before we were like, okay, we've got to get this into a measurable position.
Yeah.
It's a salesperson's nature to just like pick up the phone and make another call without measuring the effectiveness of it and making sure you're being efficient with your time. So you're 100% right. But it's hard. It's hard, but it's critical.
Yeah. And me too. It's a learning journey, and we can talk about it because it's the trial by fire. I've been through it, so I can help share on that. Now, so our listeners here as loan officers that are looking at their business, I know that you guys have a fantastic onboarding process. So walk me through, what are the 3 things that really move the needle for a loan officer on going out and generating a customer? What are the activities that grow their business?
Well, let's see. I'm a product of the mortgage, the Freedom Club here. So yeah, I'd be a fool if I wasn't, going back to the DSP,
The
right?
daily success plan.
Yeah, it works, and I can tell you, the minute you get away from it and you try all these other fancy things, is, the minute you need to get right back into it. The path database thing is crazy. And so one of the cool things we do here, and we get the question a lot from LOs, like, what about a CRM? What about a CRM? And frankly, most shops that run a model like ours are built more on a platform of, we're kind of in a compliance and payroll company, right?
Right.
Like, you go find your own CRM. Yeah, you got to use our LOS. You go find your own CRM. You go find this. You brand yourself. You do all that. The cool thing about Go Rascal, I think, a few things is, number one, I love our brand. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, for sure. I think it takes a minute to get used to, or whatever, the name. The branding's phenomenal, right? And so we make it clear to our LOs, hey, you can come and adopt our brand, and we have a ton of collateral and flyers and stuff. You can also represent yourself. I think the new age of the loan officer is them branding themselves
Yes.
with their name. Frankly, that's really the way to
Hmm.
do it in a compliant way, powered by Go Rascal. And so you can still use all our kind of color patterns and fonts and stuff, but Go Rascal doesn't have to be at the forefront. Either works. But that's cool. And so, because I am an original originator, and the company was built at the beginning to support my origination, is our MO has always been, we will invest money in anything that initially helps my book of business, helps me grow. And because we put in the labor and the investment into the technology, once it's built and it's going to help my book of business, essentially give it to our loan officers at cost. So
Yep.
that same loan officer would go to another flat fee model shop, would have to go buy Django and pay their own. We don't use Django anymore, but for example, pay their own developer to do whatever, 3, 4, 5,000 in. If we were using Django, or when we were using Django, we would spend all that money, build it out, and basically hand it over to the LO and say, here's the format, here's the blueprint. If you want it, here. And we would even go as far as saying, we'll take your list of, names of past clients or whatever, we'll load it in. And if we build out a template for any kind of drip campaign or whatever, or refi thing, you can use it too, right? So you can brand it
Amazing.
yourself. And so I think that's a really cool value add, that someone can walk in and say, I'm walking into a bit more of a retail operation where they're building systems and tools for me, and they're frankly covering the upfront costs of it. Yet it's this flat fee model, and I'm in the broker channel. So that's our biggest value prop, is called what we call the balance blueprint. It's like,
Okay.
how do we deliver like a lot of the revenue and commissions back to the LO, but how do we still support them in a way where they're like, it's not imbalanced.
Yeah.
And so with those systems, CRM, the reason I even brought up the CRM is, again, like, the only way to manage a past database, not the only way. You can work off of a Google Doc if that, frankly, I don't think that's a problem at all, but I think it gets a little bit of a boost if you have it in a CRM and you can push a dialer through and things like that. And so I pitched the DSP, to be honest. I think there's probably 4 or 5 equivalent names from different coaching models, but at this point, almost every LO has like heard of one version of that. And like, that to me, that's tried and true. That's what we come back to. And now, right now, frankly, outside of that, is we're helping everyone build their refinance muscles back up. How do
Yep.
you sell an EARL? How do you sell an FHA streamline? There's all these technical elements to it, the waiting periods. We don't want to wait till the deal is in our lap to lock. We want to get ahead of it 6 months in advance and have the LOs, know how to sell it. Because it's, for a lot of loan officers, it's a brand new product. And you only got in the
Yep.
business 2, 3 years ago. You don't really know what a refi is.
Yeah.
So we're thinking those ways. We're holding in-house sales training on, all of those technical things. My processor and our loan officer team lead lead a training every other week. Now we're doing it. That is all about like what's pertinent and hot
Yep.
relative to, how to add loans for our loan officers.
That's amazing. And for those of our listeners, I mean, okay, there's so much there as well, but for all of our listeners, the daily success plan is a focused activity each day of the week, Monday through Thursday. And it's a focus call to a specific part of your mortgage business. So they basically identified all of the major pathways of business. And it's a way to focus and follow a proven script on a proven day. And they have a program at the Mortgage Marketing Animals called Call Stars. And it's literally hundreds of loan officers on a Zoom. Everybody's on mute, but like for the first 15 minutes, they coach you on what the call is and the script is of the day. And then everybody starts dialing. And then you've got a piece of paper. And every time somebody gets an appointment, they're holding up the piece of paper and everybody gets to celebrate. But it's like you don't have to go out and pick up the 10,000 pound phone. You get coached at the beginning and then everybody gets to do it together. And then at the end, you know, go on about your day, but you've done your business building activities first. So that's the daily success plan. And I won't give you the whole thing because you got to go over to the Mortgage Marketing Animals and get information on that. Go to mortgagemarketinganimals.com. But it focuses on your database. It focuses on the deals that you have in process. And then it focuses on referral partners. And that is referral partners that you're actively working with, that you've worked with in the past, and then a targeted list of referral partners that you want to be doing business with in the future. And there's scripts and processes for that. So Scott, thank you for sharing that. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk just a touch about Loan Officer CRM. So loanofficercrm.ai, we have partnered with the Mortgage Marketing Animals and taken all of the campaigns that are in the Daily Success Plan and automated them using artificial intelligence. So now we've got all the Mortgage Marketing Animal scripts in there. So you're dumping the contacts into the top of the funnel. And like you and I just said, you put more contacts in the top of the funnel, you're going to get more at the bottom. So you put more contacts into the top because it's artificial intelligence that's actually using the scripts to have the back and forth conversations for you. And that's loanofficercrm.ai if anybody's interested in information about that. Now, Scott, with all of that being said, when you bring a loan officer in and you've taken them through that 90-day architected process, which is amazing that you've done that, when you have somebody that's been with the brand for a year per se, where do you find them hitting their cadence and really getting results from long term as you support them?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, I think, specifically being in the broker channel is, and I've just noticed this from observation, is so you have retail LOs, they come over the broker channel, they're giddy about, you know, rates and pricing and optionality and things like that. And they, we're big United Wholesale Mortgage fans or shop. We send them a lot of business, about 70% of our book. And really, I give my loan officers complete freedom to pick where they want to send it, and you know, the cream rises to the top. And so what's happens is loan officers will find their footing by saying, all right, UWM is great, but like, I want to try this place out, you know, manual underwrite or low FICO or whatever. Either UWM doesn't do it or the pricing's off, and they'll go through their own experience. A loan will close and they'll be like, that was all right. And I'll give it another try. And that one didn't really go that well. And they usually come back to me a year later and are like, remember at the beginning, you emphasize that we have, 50, 60 lenders, but you really want to get dialed in with 3 or 4 or 5 that, you send a lot of business to, you build a relationship, you get, perks here and there. But I really wanted to go out and explore these all. And now I get it. Like, I'm coming back a year into this thing and I've got my go-to lenders who I know where to send, know how to send the deal. You build a relationship with the account executive or whatever. And so we try to steer them along the way, kind of bring them back. But I don't ever want a loan officer to think that I have any, vested interest or reason to direct one of their loans somewhere. I think one of the best parts about being in the broker channel is transparency, that there's no back end commissions, compensation, YSP, like what you see on the closing disclosure is all the commission and revenue that comes in the door. And so I think everyone knows that, really, like, unless you're brand new to the business, you know how the channel works, but you never know. People scratch their heads and wonder. And so I don't want to let people go off and fail. I don't want them to lose a loan, a borrower, a realtor relationship. And ultimately it doesn't get that far. I think it goes from either it was excellent to it went fine, but I had to spend 3 extra hours like in the weeds figuring things out. So I let them learn on their own. And I think once they've got their team in place, that's when they can have that security to say, like, I'm a pro in this channel. I know what I'm doing. And so I can now go out and represent it fully, without being a little bit tentative or whatever. Because again, like you're 5, 10 years in the retail channel, one place, no matter where you go, you're going to be insecure for a while.
Yep.
And yes, those first 60, 90 days, we erase a lot of those very like high top level insecurities, but they're still waking up every day. It takes a minute to understand and learn it. And so that's where I wouldn't say it's so much like growth, because I think for our loan officers, you know, their growth is going to be mostly driven by their own efforts and whatnot, not the
Yep.
channel they move to. I do love seeing, which I will point out now more than ever, because when we get rush files that need to go into processing, people will note, hey, I've got 9 days to close. I just picked this up from a retail shop who declined it. I'm seeing more and more of that. And I love that value prop of saying, hey, you know, if you're at one retail shop, you can't do the loan, you're done. You come to the broker channel and it doesn't fit the box of this lender. We've got several others that have a good shot at it, and one will probably do it unless it's totally outside of guidelines. So I'm seeing so many more deals come over. So when we talk about growth for an LO, we often say, hey, how many loans are you doing each month right now? 3. How many like contracts could you have had that you're not closing? Another 3. Why? Getting beat on price, or it's not fitting the box. You know, I can't think of a third scenario. It's like, all right, there's a good chance that you will get all 6 of those deals if you come over to our channel. So you have the potential to see 100% growth on day, 1, 30, 90, whatever it is, by just making the move to this channel. And it happens. And that's part of the happiest home for loan officers is self-fulfilling, because people come over, they're making more per loan, they're winning on rate, and any loan that is closable and is compliant, they're able to bring in and close here and get the refi or 2 over the next few years and win the agent on the referral thing. And I know I'm going off track here, but I think the most successful piece of the DSP right now is warm agents
Yeah.
that you got to do a deal with, but you don't have a relationship with. I think
Mm.
doing the cold outreach on Mondays is hard. It works, but I've never seen better conversion than you do a kick-ass job on the transaction and you reach out to the agent during the process as we've been trained, and then afterwards to establish and build a relationship. I think probably the agent's been insecure for a couple of years now. Rates are all over the place. The customer's more rate sensitive than ever. And so if you win a deal and do a good job and you weren't the first person, you weren't the person the agent referred, but your
Mm.
client tells them they are going with Scott or Chris because he got them a better rate, and then you kick butt on it, that's so warm. That's
Yeah.
warmer than it's ever been for them to be like, geez, I got to give you some business. Maybe the next few deals I'll refer both of you. But if you're beating my other guy consistently, like I'm in, I'm all in. I mean, there's no transactions out there for agents. And so I know I pivoted a bit, but that's my favorite piece of the DSP, and it's easy. There's
Oh,
no
it's
call
so easy.
resistance there. You know this agent, and you did a
Yeah.
great job.
And we're working with people inside the mortgage marketing animals on that scripting, where one of the things that's converting really well is let's have a second look, because there is so much uncertainty out there and rates are, or clients are so rate sensitive. It's crushing that first deal and then making that conversation of like, I don't want all of your business, but let's take a second look at some of these declines that you've got in the past and at least look at how we could have been able to work together on that. And all you're doing is you're opening up that second meeting. You're opening up that mindset shift of, I can get a second opinion. I should be getting a second opinion. And if you can place another deal that potentially got declined previously back on that real estate agent's desk, I mean, there's 2 deals out of 1 referral partner that you've won over through the process of doing the whole thing. So Scott, that's super valuable. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I'll just add one other thing on that. I think if you call that agent after closing and the first line out of your mouth is like, I know you have someone else you've worked with for years. Like I'm not, it's like kind of the elephant in the room, but like you address it. And like, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to just drop them from one transaction, but here's why I think I should be a part of your growth plan in 2024 based on the trend. Like if I'm an agent and the guy's saying, listen, I realize like, this isn't happening overnight, and you're a human too. And that person's not necessarily bad. They probably crush deals too, but like, I've got to be involved here. I've got to be in the conversation now. Okay. Can I at least be considered? I'll receive that a lot more than from someone than if they just kind of ignore the reality that, as an agent, I had a preferred guy that didn't get the deal, who I might be
Yeah.
friends with and things like that. So there's a way to
Yeah.
do it like with authenticity than just a hard sales pitch.
Oh, 100%. And the authenticity and just being real, it goes so much further than, a good pitch or even products or service, like just being genuine and just doing a phenomenal job and caring about people too. So, well, Scott, I know how busy you are and I know how valuable your time is. So we will leave it at that. But if people would like more information on you, Go Rascal, where do people go? How do people find out more information?
Yeah, so our webinar every Thursday is always published on our company LinkedIn page. So if you go find us on LinkedIn or me, at the moment, my partner would say like, why are you doing this? But I am accessible. So, people email me. Again, of course I'm accessible. I mean, I'm not, I'll always be accessible, but, Scott at GoRascal.com, very, very easy, straightforward. I'll talk to people. I love talking to loan officers. As much as I can't spend 80% of my day on the phone, the webinar is like my favorite hour of the week. And I love those calls. It's fun. Everyone's different and unique and has their own stuff. So it's therapy at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And if we can't be in Costa Rica, catching a wave or taking a yoga class, then why not find therapy on, sitting in the cold in New York on a Zoom call?
I like it. And different strokes for different folks. Scott, thank you for being on the show and for being so generous with your time, brother. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. And to all of our wonderful listeners, if that's not worth a 5-star review on iTunes, I don't know what is. So head on over to iTunes, leave us that 5-star rating and review, and I'll see you on the next episode.